Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We do hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us look, we had this really in the works, but it never really came out as we was going to do this show. But look, we're here right now. We're delighted to be welcoming you to the Last Word on Spurs for a feature special as we react, first reaction across social media on Tottenham Hotspur's squad announcement for the Asia Pacific tour, which of course is impending and upon us. And we're going to get a first glance, a first look at Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur in action, helping me summarise, dissect, go through what we've seen in terms of the squad announcement. I'm delighted to have back on this show with me. We've got the brilliant George Achillea. George, love to be back on Last Word on Spurs. I must thank you in advance for battling technology for us to try and make this work and let everybody know we are relying on technology to try and make this work. George, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I try my best. I'm all good, thank you. It's typical that, Wi-Fi goes down the moment that, we need to just talk about Spurs and news comes in, but just battling all sorts today. So, yeah, no, great to be back on. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure. Joining George tonight. Delighted to have her back on the show. Regular on the Last Word on Spurs. We've got the brilliant Christina Zandes back on the show. Christina, thank you for giving up so much time for us at the moment. Really do appreciate it.
Twice in a week, you guys must be getting so bored of me.
I know. You know what? I tell you what, it's just the love of Tottenham right now. But by the time the season comes on, I won't be able to get hold of you at all. They'll be literally cracking down the phone. Can't find her when Spurs are going. Now everyone's positive during pre-season. Everyone's on a high again. One man we're also delighted to have back on the Last Word on Spurs always provides us some really expert insight across Italy in general in terms of players that have been gone in terms of Tottenham, players that might still be going off to Italy. Of course, we've got a bloated squad during this current situation Spurs find themselves in relation to, of course, the tour. Many surprised that we've taken so many on in terms of that squad, which we're going to come on to. But we're delighted to have Pundit, Simone, Dell'Uomo back on with us. Simone, how are you, my friends? Love to have you back on Last Word on Spurs.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, guys. It's a privilege for me to be here alongside you. So thanks a lot, and really appreciate it, man.
No, listen, pleasure is all ours. Pleasure is all ours. Now, it's funny because I think in the build-up to the squad announcement, there was a lot of speculation that Spurs may be leaving quite a number of players behind. And I think there was almost a waiting from a lot of fans to feel, are we going to get a real indication of who is in and who is out of Ange Postecoglou's plans? Well, Spurs have selected to take part in, of course, this pre-season tour of Australia. And this is obviously before locking horns with West Ham on Tuesday, July the 18th, in what, of course, will be Ange Postecoglou's first game in charge. Now, the likes of Troy Parrott, Dane Scarlett, Alfie Devine will be hoping that they've done enough to earn themselves a place in the starting lineup for one of those matches on the tour. Unfortunately, we've had confirmation that Troy Parrott, I think Troy will be travelling along with Dane Scarlett and Alfie Devine, but we've had a couple of players that will be missing out, one of which is Bryan Gil, which is a really, really big disappointment for him personally, because the player you feel would have really looked to have made an impact, of course, in terms of Ange Postecoglou, an attacking player. And it's one, of course, for Tottenham. It's a real disappointing miss. But the good news, of course, look, James Maddison is part of that squad. And, of course, as well, is Manus Solomon, Spurs' latest signing. So the club's announcement read, this travelling squad for our pre-season Asia-Pacific tour has been confirmed ahead of games against West Ham United in Australia, Leicester City in Thailand, and Lion City Sailors in Singapore. The following players will make the trip. Now, we'll come on to those in a second, but the squad will fly out to Perth, of course, in Australia. And the club confirms Bentancur, Forster, Bryan Gil, Parrott, Sessegnon will all miss out through injury. And Hugo Lloris has been granted permission not to travel in order to explore a prospective transfer of opportunities. So we'll come on to the players that have made the plane. But let's start with you, George. Any real surprises in terms of those that have missed out? It's more down to injury and obviously Lloris searching for a move. Any real surprises for you?
Not particularly in terms of those that missed. I think I wasn't aware of Bryan Gil's injury. So that I was a little bit surprised by, but the rest of them seems pretty standard to me.
Yeah, Christina, coming over to you. I mean, look, it's one of those where I think in the build-up, as I said, anticipation, I think a lot of supporters were maybe expecting there to be a couple of real surprises in terms of players being left behind. But if we're being honest and truthful, there's not really a lot of headlines there. I mean, Lloris publicly obviously came out and said he was looking for a move, as of course is Davinson Sanchez, who of course, as we understand, has travelled. So in the whole build-up to, of course, this announcement, is there really any headline news apart from the fact, as we probably all expected, Harry Kane is on the plane?
I think the more shock is how many people are actually going more than who's not going. So yeah, I haven't got any I'm just looking at the list right now. There's no one that I'm shocked about. The one that I'm really gutted about is Gil, though, for sure, because I was really looking forward to him. Bentancur, that was going to be, of course, he's injured. Ryan Sessegnon, always injured, of course. But no, apart from that, honestly, to me, it just, I said it in the last show, I didn't think anything was going to be, I thought majority of all our players were going to be there, and that's exactly what it looks like. So yeah, nothing really huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Simone, coming over to you there. Obviously, again, as I mentioned, lots of speculation out there about the players that would have to really impress Ange Postecoglou to have made the tour. And now after all this, really, in reality, he's taken a lot of them, if we're being truthful, apart from those that are injured, and of course, Hugo Lloris, to have a really good look at them. I just wonder, when you've got such a big squad, a 31-man squad on tour, I'm not sure how closely you can really analyse each player in such a real, you'd say, quick nature of time. They've obviously got 3 friendlies they need to cover. They're then coming back, of course, with Shakhtar Donetsk as well. Do you think, Simone, has he done the right or the wrong thing by taking such a big squad? It's 31 players in total. Are you surprised by how big a squad Tottenham are taking on this tour?
Yeah, of course. It's the the dirty side of the game for Ange, for Postecoglou, because he needs to analyze 40 players, and everyone knows that maybe the club want a proper future to some players, just like Hugo Lloris, just like Gio Lo Celso, just like Sergio Reguilon. And for that, definitely for them, the future is what it is. But for Ange needs to try to build again with his current squad, and it's gonna be incredibly difficult if you wanna play in your training side players like Reguilon, Lo Celso, and players like that.
Yeah, I mean, just to confirm those players that have made the plane, we've got Spurs' new, I'd say number 1. He's not number 1 at the moment. Of course, that's Vicario. We've got Alfie Whiteman, Brandon Austin, Josh Keeley making up the goalkeepers. Defenders, Destiny Udogie is on the plane, as is Sergio Reguilon, who, of course, Simone just referenced there. Davinson Sanchez does make the plane, despite publicly admitting he would like to leave the football club. Emerson Royale, Joe Rodon, of course, who was on loan last season. Eric Dyer, Christian Romero, Pedro Porro, Jed Spence, Japhet Tanganga, Ben Davis make up those defenders who are on the plane. Midfielders, Spurs' new summer signing, James Maddison, of course, is there, as is Oliver Skipp. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, despite strong interest, as we understand, from Atletico Madrid, he's on the plane. Ivan Perisic, we're going to mix him up there, of course, that he can play as a forward player as well. He's also on the plane, again, despite a lot of strong speculation that his contract would be looking to be terminated for him to return to Croatia. Giovanni Lo Celso, another player strongly linked with a move away. Tungi Ndombele, again, a player that would have caught really big headlines, is on the plane, as is Pat Matasar, Yves Bissouma, Alfie Devine, Harvey White. And then the forwards, the big man, the main man, Harry Kane, is, of course, there, as is Heung-min Son, Dejan Kulusevski, Spurs' new and latest summer signing, Manor Solomon, and Dane Scarlett. But it is interesting because Tottenham will not be in Australia for long. Just 5 days after clashing with West Ham, Spurs, of course, then jet off to Bangkok to face Leicester, and then on to Singapore before returning to North London at the start of August, where Postecoglou will make his first visual appearance at White Hart Lane, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, as Spurs take on Shakhtar Donetsk before a late friendly confirmed, as we saw this week, against Barcelona in Spain, before we gear up to Brentford to come. So look, again, it's a big squad, as we've mentioned. I mean, look, George, let's go through the eye openers at the moment. And one, obviously, the club have announced is, of course, Hugo Lloris will not be, of course, travelling because he's been granted permission to explore prospective transfer opportunities. I mean, from what you've seen, George, from what you've read, from what you've heard, how quickly do you think Hugo will iron out his future and most likely leave the club? Can you see this stretching on for many, many months?
I don't think it should take too long. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not entirely sure how true the sources are, or whatever, but obviously there's been speculation about offers from Saudi. I've heard that obviously Lloris wants to go back to France potentially. But then also it looks like Onana's getting closer to to moving to Man United, and I don't know why. Surprisingly, Inter Milan seem to be interested in Hugo Lloris as his replacement. So I don't think it will take too long. Maybe that's why he's requested specifically to not go on the tour, so that he can wrap a deal up ASAP. Whereas maybe someone for the likes of Sanchez, it might be a political play by the club to show them in some game time and then potentially drive up their price. Who knows? But I can't imagine the deal will take too long for Lloris to go, especially with only 1 year left on his deal.
I mean, Christina, do you have the same feeling there, Lloris? Would you expect this situation for him to be sorted out fairly quickly and leave the club before we do kick off to Brentford, of course, for that opening Premier League game?
I think it'd be very quick with him. I mean, I know that he hasn't had the best, recent years with us, but he's just, to me, I'm really sad that we didn't actually give him like a good thank you. Like a goodbye, like we have with previous players, because I honestly think Hugo Lloris he's done so much for us, and yeah, I'm just really gutted to not be able to say goodbye to him properly, I guess. But I do think, something will snap up for him quite quickly. He's an incredible goalkeeper, and we've got to remember like those good times that he did for us. He's honestly saved our back so many times, guys. And yeah, I wouldn't surprise me, if this is really quick.
It's interesting, Simone, isn't it? Because there was a little bit of speculation that there was clubs from interest in Italy for Hugo Lloris. That seems to have, for the moment, quietened down. We've seen Paris Saint-Germain once again being linked with Hugo Lloris. If you had almost I know you might not be a betting man, but where would you expect Hugo Lloris to maybe end up before the end of this summer transfer window, in your opinion? Do you have a hunch at all?
To be honest, I'm expecting him to join the Saudi money guys. To be
Okay.
frankly honest.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and he was dreaming of being back to French, but not with PSG, but with his French club that is Nice. But Nice, at the currently state, they already got 2 keepers, and I'm not expecting them to try to bring in someone that is gonna be remembered as one of the greatest keepers in the last 20 years. But of course, right now they've got other ideas, and I'm expecting maybe Jose Mourinho trying to bring him someone like Hugo Lloris to Rome, maybe Inter de Milan. They are searching for 2 new goalkeeper, because they are releasing someone like Samuel Andanovic, and they are selling right now Onana to Man United. But we'll see what's gonna happen. I'm expecting Spurs to stay with Guillermo Vicario and as a first choice, and Fraser Forster as a second keeper.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because again, when you look at that squad, and we've discussed, George, how bloated that is. It's a 31-man squad that Ange Postecoglou has taken with him on this tour. Do you think, George, in reality, is he going to get enough time, in your opinion, to really analyse and gauge those players that are in his plans? Because I think many would have looked at it and thought that, number one, it's maybe a good sign he's taking everyone with him, because it's a clean slate. Everyone gets an opportunity and gets a real good chance under the manager to almost prove themselves, their worth really to him. But are you concerned, because of the nature of how many we're taking away, it actually might be quite hard to really gauge, in a real cutthroat reality of things, who is definitively good enough for him? What do you think, George, in terms of the size of that squad?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's going to be a case of playing 11 players one half, 11 players the next half, and doing that for the 3 games that were out on tour. It is a little bit difficult. Obviously, with the youngsters, it doesn't quite matter as much, because you wouldn't necessarily expect the likes of Dane or Alfie Devine really to get first team minutes this year. And in fact, someone like Alfie Devine is probably going to, I imagine, get a loan to maybe a championship side, and maybe Dane Scarlett out again. So maybe it's just for him to see more what the academy players are like. I would be very surprised if they're really involved in the first team. So they're fine. And then again, like you say, the likes of Lo Celso and Ndombele, maybe he just knows. Obviously, he's had training with those sort of players for a while. Some of the ones that were on international duty have only just come back, so it's harder to tell. But maybe he's already got a little idea in his mind about which ones he prefers, and then the rest he might be able to have an idea during the games. We don't know, but you're right. It seems like there's going to have to be a lot of rotation in all those friendlies.
It's interesting, George, you say that about maybe 11 one half, 11 the other half. The only concern for me, Christina, thinking about that is that he's a new manager. He's got to really set the stall out very quickly in terms of trying to drill into these players this new attacking brand of football. We can't forget for the last 3-4 years, we've had managers that have been really overly cautious with a defensive-minded approach. And I think my only concern is when I look at the size of that squad, is that you really want to implement with the players very, very quickly this new style of play. And my worries, as Jules said there, and I agree with Jules, you're going to get situations where in these 3-4 games coming up where it's 11 players one half, it's 11 players another half. And Brentford really, in reality, look, it's less than a month away now. Mm-hmm. Are you a little bit concerned because we're taking that many away? Are the players all going to be able to really understand so quickly the type and brand of football Postecoglou wants to play and be ready for game one against Brentford?
Well, I just think this is like a big. This should be taken seriously. I feel all these pre-match games, and as well, you know, with Ange at the moment, he's coming to Tottenham now, so he needs to see all of these players, and I think this is a big deal, especially for the youngsters. So I think everyone needs to take this seriously. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a positive. He's going to look at all of these players now, and I think. Yeah, exactly what George said. 11 first half, 11 a new 11 on the second half. And I think he's going to really look into, the youngsters. I think this is what it is for. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of loans that will be coming out like later on. But I think this is going to be all a big decision making for all these matches.
Yeah, I mean, again, the good thing is everyone will feel like they've got an opportunity. I think how a lot of people feel right now is when they look at that squad, there's not much change in terms of the defence. And I think we all would have loved to have seen at least a couple new centre-backs come in. Of course, the likes of Mickey van der Ven, Edmunds, Hapsaba being strongly linked. But look, as everyone is saying, everyone's got their opportunity. Everybody's got their chance. I think the big thing for us is that we want to be ready. Game one for Brentford. Everybody understands exactly how Ange Postecoglou wants to play. Of course, look, he's got obviously training to come. It might be a good thing everybody's going to be there. One man I want to ask you about, Simone, one man that you know very, very well, and I'll be honest, maybe us across the panel here know a little bit less on, or a lot less on, is Tottenham's new goalkeeper in Vicario. You can tell I'm avoiding saying his first name because I want to make sure I say it properly on day one when we do our Brentford review. So you will be the man that will champion us through to make sure we get that name pronounced correctly so I don't butcher it. But firstly, Simone, how excited should Spurs fans be about the signing of Vicario? And do you generally feel he is going to adapt and be ready for the Premier League on that day one?
It's going to be ready. I don't think so. I think that he's going to be one of the best keepers into the Prem in the next couple of years because we are talking, guys, trust me. After Magnan, AC Milan keeper, after Onana, Inter de Milan keeper, for me, trust me, I'm Italian, as you know. And I want to really state that Vicario was the third best keeper into the Serie A. Of course, no one knew him in England because he wasn't playing for clubs like Rome, Lazio, Milan, Inter de Milan. He was playing for a small town like Empoli. And of course, in England, no one knew him. But even if he eat that deal, still smells Paratici, you know that this time Paratici, Levy, I don't know which one is really behind that deal. We are talking about an incredible deal. 20 million pounds for this player, this keeper. We are talking about a world-class keeper. Trust me. Wow. Everyone in England knows Donnarumma, that is the first keeper for Italian national team. But trust me, the first keeper for Naples that just won the Scudetto, just won the Serie A, was Meret. The second team into the table, Lazio, just have got Provedel. But trust me, neither Provedel or Meret are at the same level of Vicario. Then it all depends on what you wish, what you want. Because if you want a player that maybe is incredible to build up from the back, you know, your first choice clearly was David Raya from Bradford. But trust me, guys, Vicario knows how to play from the back. Maybe it's not the best to play from the back, but knows how to play from the back. But if I have to pick a keeper to defend my goal, I will always go for Vicario. For 20 million euros, is absolutely a steal, a bargain. Incredible deal by Daniel Levy. And it's the first time that Daniel Levy will pick the cheaper option, but this time he chooses the right one. It's incredible.
We hope so. We hope so.
Incredible.
Well, look, we will keep our fingers crossed, of course. George, when we again analyse those players that have made the plane, those that haven't, a couple on there that, look, they've been part of, well, they've been Spurs players for a very long time, but of course they've been out on loan, respectively, both of them. Ndombele, Giovanni and Lo Celso. Look, I think it's a real split in relation to Ndombele across the Spurs fan base. I know some Spurs fans feel, why should this guy get a fifth, a sixth, a seventh opportunity? And there's some that feel, maybe I'm in a similar to this camp at the moment, that he's got unbelievable ability and he just hasn't had the right manager to unlock him. He was bought by an attacking branded manager in we know who, of course, down in southwest London now. And subsequently since then has been given, of course, managers such as Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, Nuno Espirito Santo, who are predominantly defensive-minded coaches. So, look, this is a really, really good opportunity for Ndombele to play, well, to have the opportunity in pre-season to show himself under a attacking branded manager. I just wonder, George, for you, it's a big question I've got to ask you. Do you think Ndombele will be in Tottenham Hotspur's squad against Brentford for that first Premier League game?
My heart really wants to say yes, you know. I was when he first came, I was a huge fan of his, and I was really pushing for him to do well. And you're right. I think the problem is with the managers, it almost just started to get more and more defensive as it went along, and it just really didn't suit him at all, in my opinion, because at least he had quite a bit of game time under Mourinho. I think obviously the tracking back was a bit of an issue, but again, he's a very counter-attacking sort of defensive coach, and it seemed like Ndombele wasn't willing to do that sort of work. And then by the time you got to Conte only plays with two midfielders, and we all know that his centre mids basically have to do absolutely everything, which we all know doesn't really work for Ndombele. But my one hope under Ange is that because he plays with these attacking eights so high up the pitch, or like he did with the likes of Hatate at Celtic, I feel like he will have more of a chance to thrive here, especially by being more attacking. He'll be able to play a lot further up the pitch. And with the inverted fullbacks, if we are playing Udogie or Porro, whoever it may be, they're going to be helping out, let's say, Bissouma in the midfield. So he won't necessarily have to do as much tracking back as with the previous managers. So there's definitely a chance that it could work, but it's just one of them ones we're going to have to wait and see in the games. We just don't know if he's got the hunger.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? We are going to come to Lo Celso in a second, but we have to stick about on Ndombele because, again, there's been so much speculation with relation to if he'll stay, if he'll go. Well, look, Christina, he's on the plane. Ndombele is on the plane. What's your reaction to Ange Postecoglou taking him there as part of his travelling squad for these upcoming games, of course, in Asia?
What are you doing? No, I'm joking. It's so annoying, guys, because I really wanted... I was so excited when we signed this guy, and I've never been so disappointed in someone. It's just... Look, I generally think it's the attitude that is the issue. I really think that's what's the problem with Ndombele. If Ange can sort this out, by all means, I'll be well happy. But just at this moment right now, I just feel like there could be other people that could probably deserve another chance. I don't know. But who knows? I'm just fed up with Ndombele, with the attitude, and it's really just wound me up clearly. But who knows? If Ange can do it, then I guess miracles really can happen at Tottenham. But yeah, we got to see with the pre-matches, see how he plays, and go by then.
I mean, it's interesting because, again, you would say at the moment, I think Postecoglou really impressed Simone coming over to you in that first press conference. He really did well in terms of being able to answer all the questions that needed to answer. and did it in a really well thought out way. I think he was really precise. He came across really as a really nice, decent human. And I think Spurs fans already feel a connection to Ange, almost over at this very early days. I just wonder, Simone, look, we've discussed the fact he's taken the big squad with him on this tour, and many will feel rightly so. And again, for me, the most important thing is everybody does feel valued, and I'm sure he's doing that already from day one. Simone, what's your take on Ndombele? Obviously, of course, you watched him up close and personal in Italy last season. Like every Spurs player that goes out on loan, they end up getting a trophy. He ended up getting a trophy. So I'm not giving too much praise on getting the trophy, because every player that leaves Tottenham and goes on loan seems to do that. No matter what level they are, Championship, League One, they end up coming back with something. Gut feeling, Simone, on Ndombele, do you think he'll still be here come the end of this summer window?
Guys, with my absolutely humble English, I would say that I don't want to see Tanguy Ndombele once again wear Spurs jersey after Morecambe, because the way he left the pitch was absolutely incredible.
Yep.
And it could be an incredible bargain. He could be the real one that can take the place of Moussa Dembele, but he wasn't good enough. And the main problem about him is that he needs to understand that to play football, you have to play football even without the ball. Because with the ball, we are talking about one of the greatest players in the world. Without the ball, we are talking about one of the worst. This is all about Ndombele. And Ndombele doesn't care about Tottenham. And I want to see players that when they wear Spurs jersey, they know the club that they are representing. And the way he left the pitch when Antonio Conte decided in the third round of the FA Cup on 2022, decided to leave the pitch was absolutely shameful. So
it was, yeah, I agree.
I've got a lot of respect, and I absolutely love Ange Postecoglou. But it seems that he's gonna try to bring in once again the best of Tanguy Ndombele. But we need to recover players like Bentancur.
Yep.
The same Ives Bissouma still needs to show the best side of himself. So I don't know why he's trying to recover a player like Tanguy, but I will always be on the same side of Ange Postecoglou. So let's see what happens.
Also, Simone, just to stick with you, Giovanni Lo Celso. Again, a name that maybe many would be surprised to think he would also make this tour. But again, given the context of things where Ange has taken the majority of the squad, maybe it shouldn't be as a surprise. He's been strongly linked again with maybe a move to Italy, of course, Spain as well. Aston Villa have been linked to him as well. What do you think the future does hold for Giovanni Lo Celso? Would you be massively surprised if he could revive his Spurs career? I mean, I'd be more surprised than Ndombele, to be honest with you. What do you think?
Yeah, we could expect both Tanguy Ndombele and Gio Lo Celso out of the squad in this current transfer window. But right now, as you know, Ange Postecoglou is trying to recover a player like Tanguy Ndombele. Gio is definitely out of the plans for the future of Tottenham. And right now in Italy, we got to know that Naples are trying to get him, not for 25, 30 million pounds, but maybe 15, 17 million pounds. So let's wait for the next couple of days to see what is going to happen.
Yep. No, I agree. I totally agree. What we are going to do, we are going to go for our break of the show for our listeners and audio. Thank you so much again for all your love and support for Last Word On Spurs. Got a huge audience watching us here as we reflect, of course, on Ange Postecoglou making a decision in terms of who will be going on this, of course, Asia Pacific tour for Tottenham Hotspur. A predominantly big squad. Ange is taking 31 players, as we mentioned from the very, very start of the show. If we move on to the midfielders, I mean, look, as we've discussed, there's no real I say move on to the midfielders. Obviously, we've discussed Ndombele and Lo Celso, but there's no other real big surprises in there. I think Bissouma one really, George, where we're expecting a big season for him. I think already we're seeing behind the scenes how he's been highly influential in that dressing room. He seems to be running the decks, quite literally there, running the decks with Emerson Royale. There's been lots of talk on social media as to who's in control, but he's looking like he's very excited. And also some of the young players there, George, as well. Alfie Devine, Harvey White, Pat Matissar, a fairly big opportunity for him as well to really stake a claim for Ange Postecoglou. Who do you think really for this tour is going to get the best out of this? Who's going to benefit most out of those midfielders, do you think, George, in your opinion?
I think Bissouma's got to be the one, to be honest with you. I love the guy to bits, and it was a real shame that he didn't play as much last year. I think, again, it's probably a case of, Conte's system. It's two-man midfield. He was coming from a Brighton team that played with three in the middle, where he was sort of facilitating alongside a defensive midfielder. So in Conte's words, he had to adapt, and obviously it seemed to take too long. And by the time he had his opportunity with Bentancur's injury, he got injured himself. So it was a real shame last year, but I'm really expecting him to do bits this season. I think he's such a great silky player and one of the best players in the league the season before we bought him. So yeah, I'm expecting him to do big things. And Sarr as well, I think, is one that I think we just need to work out what his best position is, because in that Leeds game, I noticed that Ryan Mason tried to play him a lot further forward than usual. Whereas when we played against AC Milan away, he was obviously a little bit deeper, collecting off the defence. And I think looked our strongest player, to be honest with you, in a poor game, albeit. But same for the North London derby, amongst a bunch of average and poor players. I think he sort of stood out and looked very comfortable on the ball, given how young he is, and you wouldn't even expect it from him because he's also still seems quite skinny, but yet on the ball he sort of uses his weight well, and his strength seems to be quite good. So I think there's a good future for him as well. So I'm excited to see those two and how they work while Bentancur's out, because I imagine one will probably have to sit a little bit deeper in the defensive mid role while the other plays in the number 8.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because again, we've got a number of options now in that midfield. So as you said, George, initially you think it will be 11 in one half, 11 in another half. It's fair to say Postecoglou's got a lot of options there to play about with in midfield. I don't know if you're surprised at all, Christina. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg does make the plane. Strong speculation, of course, over his Spurs future. One that, according to Spurs, some sources, they indicate that the club may be reluctant to let him go, but again, open to the opportunity maybe to accumulate some funds there for other areas of the squad. Been strongly linked with a move to Atletico Madrid. Would ideally like to play and continue Champions League football wherever he does go. But again, he'll be on that tour. Any surprises for you, Christina, on that?
Not at all. I thought he would be there. To be honest, it doesn't surprise me that there hasn't been any changes since our last sign-in. And I mean that with even just us signing someone and getting rid of someone. So yeah, this doesn't shock me at all. Just going with people that I am looking forward to. I totally agree with George as well on Bissouma. That guy's literally just come out of his shell. I swear, since Ange has arrived. Another one as well is Destiny. I can't wait to see this kid. I really feel like he's going to be something special. But that's what I mean with this whole. I think it's actually a good thing that all of these players have got on this plane, because it's like I said, the opportunity is there for them now, and for Ange to see everybody now, I think this is going to be hopefully an exciting time for Tottenham. So yeah, I'm staying positive with this.
I do agree with you. I think, again, you look at certain players where it's going to be really interesting to see how they do come out of their shell on this tour, because someone like, again, we reverted back a little bit, but Destiny Udogie, a player that's really had to wait for this move. When you think about it, he was a Spurs player back in January, but he's had to really wait to become a Spurs player. I wonder, Simone, for you, again, up close in Italy, watching him personally, how excited should we be? You gave us a glowing reference over Vicario saying we should be really excited. What are you going to do to us over Destiny? I mean, should, again, we be really excited by this prospect? And again, is he a player that you think immediately will stake a claim for one of those fullback positions under Postecoglou's system?
Ricky, I didn't notice the second question, but the first one, I'm absolutely excited to see Vicario join Tottenham, because I'm aware that, of course, being the next Hugo Lloris won't be easy. Definitely won't be easy, because we are talking about one of the greatest keeper into the Prem of the last decade. But we're talking about someone in Guglielmo Vicario that is going to be absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. He's going to be one of the greatest keeper in the next Prem. Trust me, guys. You
Do
don't
you
know.
think
You
with
don't know.
relation to Destiny
Yeah,
Udogie, that
because-
Destiny, what do you
because-
think on Destiny?
Because of course we know who is gonna be good, who is gonna be bad, who is gonna Vicario. Trust me, guys. I'm a little bit scared by Italian clubs because Inter de Milan, everyone was aware of the fact that Inter de Milan would have sold a player like Onana to Man United or to Chelsea, but they never managed to buy for 20 million pounds Vicario from Empoli. And
I feel like I'm on Vicario's retirement show here.
yeah,
Anyone
definitely.
feel like he's played for us the last 10
You're
years
lucky.
and won everything?
You're lucky, guys, because when Spurs are linked to Italian football, there are players that for me are not good enough to play for Tottenham.
Yeah.
But Vicario is going to be incredible. And you are talking about, you are still talking with me that I'm someone that absolutely loved Hugo Lloris every day of my life. So I know right now Spurs found out who is going to be the next keeper for not 5-6 years, for 10 years. It's going to be incredible. And David Raya for 40 million pounds is not worth Vicario for 20 million pounds. So absolutely bargain, absolutely steal, guys. Congrats on leaving. We need to be honest.
Do you think,
maybe,
Simone? Do you think,
maybe
Simone, I have to ask you?
right now it's difficult.
I have to ask you. It's really hard. I know we're going to try and steer you off a little bit from Vicario and ask you about Destiny Udogie. Again, a player that you would have seen a little bit in Italy, of course, for your time there. Do you think do you think he'll come straight into Ange Postecoglou's plans, or is this an opportunity just to kind of work out where he's at and then really identify what's next for him and what's best for him? Because again, we've seen a mixture of different performances in Italy from Destiny. He seems very, very young, very, very raw. A player with, again, really, really good ability. Is he ready, do you think, for Tottenham at the moment?
No, definitely no.
Okay. Well, okay.
You know my honestly. And, for me right now, Vicario is going to be, right now is one of the 10 goalkeepers, best keepers in Europe. But Destiny Udogie, guys, is someone that expressed itself at the very highest level 2 years ago. But this year, guys, I could expect something more. I don't know if he's a proper left back. Maybe the perfect role for him is gonna be just like he used to play for Udinese, left wing back. So I don't know when you have got the like of Pedro Porro on the right. I don't know if he's the right man to play on the left of a back four. So I'm expecting there is a problem at Tottenham right now because Perisic, you never saw him play in back four just once when you lost 6-1 at Newcastle. So Ben Davies still right now is the best option for Spurs. Ryan Sessegnon once again got injured 2 days ago. Destiny Udogie could be a good, in prospective, a good player to add to the squad, but maybe in 3-5-2 with a manager like Antonio Conte that plays 5 at the back. So for me, Destiny Udogie was a big mistake from Fabio Paratici.
Interesting. Okay. Well, listen, a player that we'll have to wait and see, of course, how and what his opportunities come like in pre-season. But I know a player that Spurs were really highly thought of, and a player that, again, we'll have to see. There's a lot of competition, of course, for those defenders. There really, really is. When we talk about midfielders, of course, that James Maddison has spoken already about how important the pre-season is for him to really hit the ground running. He said, as a pre-season tour, it's very important for a new player and the current players to almost integrate them and have that connection. I don't think it'll be difficult with a great group here. I know a lot of the players anyway, and I've already played against them. You get a feel for the type of the character they are, and it's an important time for bedding into that squad for new signings, especially the foreign signings. That time away is where you're with each other constantly, so you get to know each other's personal lives and stuff like that. That can also be very important for the team morale, which really leads to better success on the pitch. So yes, It's an important time. Spurs are going in a different direction with a new manager, a couple of signings already, and I feel a hunger about the place, and I'm ready to get going already. You can come here and you can get a feel for the club, everything about it, and it feels brilliant. I think it's fair to say, George, coming over to you, that there is real hope for James Maddison in regards to seeing him flourish in pre-season. So, George, I'm going to let you take the mic on James Maddison, and then Christina, I want you to come over afterwards because it's going to sound really unprofessional. I've got to grab my little one from the car, so we'll be back in 5. How unprofessional is this? But this is what Friday nights are like on Last Word On Spurs. George, we'll start with you. We'll go to Christina, and I'll be back in 5. So, George, I'll let you take the mic, my friend.
I'll take it away, don't worry.
Thank you, my friend.
So, James Maddison, yeah, I think, to be honest with you, this is one of the most exciting signings I think we've had for a long time, and definitely probably the player that we should have replaced Eriksen with a while back, considering we didn't get the likes of Bruno Fernandes at the time. And Lo Celso clearly hasn't worked out. But I think the thing with Maddison is it's proven quality in the Premier League. He's done it for a number of years now. He's still young, which is another a big plus, still entering his prime years. And I think we've just been desperately missing that creator. We've been missing the set piece taker. Finally, corners and free kicks, we're not going to have to turn away anymore. Although, to be fair, corners this year has been a little bit better, but the free kicks especially, we don't want to see Kane over them anytime soon. And yeah, I'm just really excited, especially now with Ange playing this supposedly extremely attacking football where these number 8s or 10s, whatever you want to call them, they're occupying the half spaces. So he'll be operating in between, most likely, Harry Kane and Kulusevski, or even on the other side, in between Kane and Son. And I feel like it's going to be a big season for him because we did score a fair few goals last year. We just conceded way too many. And the fact that we'll have Maddison in midfield to also add to that, where he can score goals himself, he can assist more. Yeah, I think he's just a very exciting player. And I'm looking forward to seeing him take that spot and playing, I imagine, most games as long as he stays injury-free.
I'm not going to lie. I actually said it on the pods. I can't remember. It was a few weeks ago, just before we signed Maddison. I wasn't all in for him. I'm going to admit. I'm still quite nervous about it as well. So, yeah, I mean, this whole build-up of when we did sign him, it was exciting, I guess. But like, to me, I am quite nervous about Maddison, especially knowing how Tottenham is. We sign someone like with a big name like this, and they just end up being not so good. So I'm waiting for him to impress me. But I'm really hoping he obviously does. Like, you know, of course, but we'll see. We'll see with Maddison. But it seems like they've built a bond already with the Spurs, with Kane, Dyer, and Maddison sitting together on the plane. So, you know, this could be a great little bond that we've got, even with Dyer, guys. Like, let's all see. Let's all see.
You know, it's interesting on Maddison. The only thing I would say with him is different to some of maybe the big signings Tottenham made, the big signatures, is that Maddison is generally Premier League proven. And he's a player that we've seen at Leicester do it season after season after season. He's a player that Spurs have tracked for a very long time. And I just think over this sign, if we can't be excited over this one, and God, you know, how many can we be excited over? Because it's a player that is, you know, when you look at his overall goals and assists over the course of the last 3-4 seasons, he's up there as being, you know, the first really to really outshine a lot of players in and around that talent pool of midfielders in the Premier League. So totally, Christian, I understand it. You know, with every kind of signing of this level, there is always a case that you have to be a little bit reluctant to go overboard. But
yeah,
we have to hope, look, that the ability the player's got and having better players around him, we have to hope he'll be even better. You know, feeding Harry Kane, Bentancur next to him, a fully fit Bissouma, a player that we saw of Brighton level. I can't believe we're not going to see Maddison go on to another level, you know, in comparison to how good he was at Brighton. We just hope he can get to that form and beyond, because I don't know if you think the same, Simone, that Maddison as a player, he's almost been waiting for this big opportunity at a big club to really show his, worth to a team. Are you excited about this one, Simone? Again, a player that I know hasn't played predominantly in Serie A, but a player you would have been obviously very much aware of in terms of the Premier League.
Yeah, for me, it could be even a starter for Man U, Chelsea, or the biggest teams that could face to that fight to win the Premier League. So for me, for 30 million euros and Harry Winks is absolutely a steal, a bargain. We have been missing this kind of player since Christian Eriksen left the club. So we are talking about someone that is gonna be absolutely key for Tottenham. So I'm absolutely delighted because it's hard. It's absolutely tough to find someone like him in Europe, not just in England, but in Europe with that characteristics. For example, in Italy, we've got maybe Hakan Çalhanoğlu from Inter de Milan, maybe, but he's 31 years old, Luis Alberto from Lazio, that has got this kind of characteristics. But Maddison is gonna be the next Christian Eriksen for Tottenham, and I'm absolutely delighted that Daniel Levy decided to pay what he had to pay to add to Tottenham squad what has been missing in the last couple of years.
Again, look, we've tried to save him till last to avoid the conversation derailing. I think you guys all know who I'm going to mention. One man that I think we're all expecting to get on the plane. We've seen some really good pictures that have come out since his return to training. Apparently, from what we've heard from, again, friend of the show, someone obviously is very close to us in Ali Gold, Spurs' correspondent for Football London, is that there's been positive talks with regards to Harry Kane and Ange Postecoglou, a positive feeling around those talks. Harry on the plane, everything we saw around Harry, really the pictures of him laughing with James Maddison. Christina showed us one in the green room of himself, Maddison and Dyer beforehand. We won't say what we said about Eric Dyer. We joke. Dyer, of course, is there as well. Look, Harry Kane is, of course, part of this tour. George, do you think, to start with you and Harry Kane, this will just quieten down the speculation a little bit? Or do you still expect this continual links to Bayern Munich to carry on throughout this summer until one way or another this is concluded? Either Harry, a statement is made and Harry is obviously staying at Spurs for this final season and hopefully beyond that, or there is a moving store. How do you expect George these next few weeks up until the deadline to play out, in your opinion?
I mean, look, I think he was always going to be in pre-season no matter what. He absolutely could not afford to have a repeat of the Man City saga where he wasn't turning up to training, and I feel like the fan base really turned on him at that point. Whether he was ill-advised, whether it was his decision, who knows? But yeah, he can't afford that. I think he wants to stay in a positive light amongst the Spurs fans. Regard to the speculation, I mean, that's just it's gonna keep on coming, but I can't see him being anywhere but Spurs come the end of the transfer window, because Bayern Munich, I mean, they've only just matched their record buy, which I think was Hernandez. I think they bought for the amount they offered for Kane. And look, we're not going to be willing to entertain anything less than £100 million, let alone euros. And I just can't see, no matter how big they are, I just cannot see Bayern Munich wanting to, completely break the bank on their record transfer for that. And I think as well, they've done a lot of reshuffling amongst their CEOs and technical directors and whatnot. And I think for one of their first major signings, they're not going to want to look like mugs, so to speak. They don't want to, play into Levy's and to pay the full whack. So I simply just think that they're not going to be able to afford him. And I think Levy's just going to price everyone out in the hopes that, Ange can convince him. Maybe we win a League Cup or FA Cup next year. Who knows? But that might be the turning point for him to sign a new contract. But yeah, I just do not see him leaving this summer at all. Interesting.
Christina, I know, bless you, you've gone through this debate. I think this is your 15th time talking about Harry Kane in the last month on Last Word on Spurs. I don't know whether your stance has changed or whether you have any feeling of change with relation to Harry Kane and, the nature of the fact now he is on that tour. It will be a firmly massive part of Tottenham's pre-season. I think, as expected, do you think then, to not get you dragged back into the whole debate over his future, I suppose the question I want to ask you is that, do you expect this speculation to continue whilst he's on this tour?
Listen, do you think Sky Sports are really going to stop for this whole transfer? Of course not. They're always going to use him throughout the whole transfer deadline. No, it's always going to be speculations. Everyone loves to talk about this for some reason, which is why it just does get really boring for us Spurs fans hearing this constantly. I generally do believe he is going to stay. I really, really do. And again, like what George said as well, of course, even if he was to leave, I think he would still be doing this pre-season. Like I said, with the issue is, if he is to leave, get this sorted right now. Literally, we need to have this sorted right now, ASAP. Do not leave this to the last minute, because we do not want to buy someone cheap who is going to replace Harry Kane, because he is an important role for us. But the way I see it, I generally believe he is definitely gonna stay. So yeah.
Simone, I know, look, for the times you've come on Last Word on Spurs, Harry Kane's future has always seemingly been up in the air. We haven't really ever had clarity or assurance that we know for sure what is going to happen with regards to Harry Kane. You, from an outsider looking in, how do you read the rumour with regards to Harry? Strong speculation over Bayern Munich. We understand Spurs have got an offer on the table there for him to extend his contract. Harry, for the moment, it's not his top priority to be looking at that. He's just focusing on the now and seeing what comes of it. We've heard there's been positive conversations with relation to Ange Postecoglou, and it'll be interesting, of course, how these next few weeks play out. What's your reading of it for you, Simone?
I don't think Daniel Levy have got any kind of economical problem to provide Harry the money that he deserves. But the main questions are all about the power and the chance that Tottenham provide him to win trophies, to fight for the biggest challenges. And I'm expecting him to join clubs that provide him the chance to try to win the Champions League. You know, we are not talking about the same Tottenham of 4 years ago when we were playing a Champions League final. So we are talking about a totally different club. We need to start from zero with Ange Postecoglou. So maybe every 29 years old is expecting something more. And more than Real Madrid, he is expecting Bayern Munich. But you are one of the greatest top goal scorer in the history of the Premier League. Maybe, okay, you are not gonna win trophies, but you could be an incredible, maybe the best scorer into the history of the Premier League. So even if I wish I was Harry, but maybe there are many circumstances to value, circumstances to state, and maybe I would have picked another option.
Again, you know what? It's so difficult with regards to trying to understand what is going through Harry's mind. I'm sure part of it, as we've said numerous times in it, Christina, if Spurs were at the very, very top competing and being close to trophies, I generally think Harry would be looking to reaffirm his commitment and commit to the football club. But I think where we are right now, again, it's a new manager who's going to be making some big decisions still in terms of the coming weeks. Look, I think we all are of the feeling that Spurs need to do more in this transfer window, of course. I think we're all in the most politest way, despite, of course, getting the goalkeeper position sorted, the attacking midfielder position sorted in James Maddison. I think all of us were really craving to see a couple of centre-backs come in because of the nature of how Spurs really was so poor defensively last season. To concede 63 goals, I think that along with the fifth highest conceding of goals in the Premier League, it's the one area that I think a lot of fans would have felt really reassured to have seen that addressed in the early stages of this transfer window. But it does appear Tottenham are going to be going into pre-season. And I think that's the big worry, without having a couple of new defenders there to almost, as we've said, be able to get straight into Postecoglou's style of play, the way he wants to play, and they'll almost have to find their way in, should, of course, they come in pre-season. But, I mean, again, we've discussed it on this show. There's a lot of opportunities out there for some of these players to really stake a claim in pre-season. So I suppose the question I want to ask you guys is who's going to be maybe the surprise player of this pre-season? Who's going to really surprise us, do you think, Christina? You know, one player that maybe we would go in there thinking, he's probably not the most glamorous name in terms of being able to travel. Who do you think, for you, from the outside looking at this 31-man squad, is going to maybe be the surprise dark horse that's going to come out and think, do you know what? He's got a really big season to come under Ange Postecoglou.
Do you know who I'm going to say? And because I mentioned it last time, I'm going to say Heung-min Son. I think he's really going to come back. I think he's going to be back to his normal self. And I think Ange is going to literally bring him back to life, I think. The other guy, I think, is... I know a lot of people weren't too fussed on him on the last season, but I was quite impressed with him, was Pedro Porro. I really do think he's going to shine as well. I think I didn't find him too bad with how he played the previous season, but I really think he's going to really come out of his shell with this one. And yeah, he's one of my ones that I'm really looking forward to. I just feel like individually, this is going to be a totally new set of characters with all of them, which is why I'm excited. I think we're in a great opportunity right now with no European Cups, no European games. Let's just all focus on these Premier League games. And to be honest, I want us to all go out there and win the FA Cup. I really, truly think like that is where we should head towards for the next season. So especially with Ange, he's not been in the Premier League. So this is a nice, fresh, clean start for him as well. So yeah, I think everyone just needs to impress our manager for now. And yeah, happy.
It's interesting, isn't it, Simone? This is a time where I know football fans, Spurs fans, of course, look, we've got a right to be excited. We've finally got ourselves an attacking brand of football with a new manager, with players that we should, as you said, be very, very excited about. I think you've told us tonight to not get too carried away about Vicario. We shouldn't be too excited, right? we shouldn't be getting too carried away about Vicario. Just the third best goalkeeper in Italy, and one that we should be all very, very excited about for sure. I just want to ask you, in the most politest way, Simone, apart from Vicario, because I know you're going to say Vicario. Apart from Vicario,
yeah.
Who should we be? Who do you think will be the surprise package of pre-season that's going to really flourish under Ange Postecoglou in these friendlies, if there is one in your thinking?
Well, good question. If all is gonna be right up there, maybe Mickey van de Ven, if Mickey will join Tottenham. But for me, the biggest surprise into the next Prem is gonna be Ange Postecoglou, because we are talking about a 58-year-old man that no one gave him absolutely anything. And I absolutely love this kind of stuff, this kind of things. And he's someone that started from Australia, and if he's gonna be the first manager ever from Australia to be a manager into the Premier League. So it's gonna be an incredible gaffer to Tottenham. Even if he's gonna say that I'm gonna bring back attacking football to Spurs. It's not about playing attacking football, defensive football. It's gonna be always the way you behave on the touchline. So I strongly think that it's gonna be absolutely special, even mainly in the year that maybe the best Tottenham manager, or maybe the one that Spurs fans used to love the most, just like Mauricio Pochettino, join Chelsea this summer. And I couldn't expect a better choice. So congrats on Levy, congrats on Scott Moon. We are talking about an incredible choice with Ange Postecoglou, because in terms of human being, it's going to be absolutely special.
You can tell me the truth now, Simone. Did you want to say Vicario is going to be the surprise of pre-season?
But for me, it's never gonna be a surprise, because for me, Vicario is gonna be one of the best keepers into the Prem. So maybe for you guys, but
listen, if he flops though, I know who I'm coming for.
I know.
Force
you can call me whenever you wish, guys.
But the Spurs fans are going to be in his. Well, I think Simone's lucky. Simone, you're not on Twitter, right? You're lucky you're on Instagram, so they'll be in his Instagram DMs if they're not trying to find him on Twitter. Where is that Simone after a clanger in pre-season? We hope not. We hope he's going to be a star. Simone, look, it's always a pleasure having you on Last Word On Spurs. Thank you so much for your time again. It was a very last-minute put-together show. Where can everybody find you and the wonderful work you do, of course, over at TV Dello Sport?
Yeah, I don't. Even if my journalist guys is gonna be surprising you, but I don't have any kind of Twitter account, but I've got Instagram. So for me, my account on Instagram is gonna be Simone Dell'Uomo 21. So if you wanna contact me, as always, you are welcome.
I've got to say, a life without Twitter, that sounds really peaceful. No wonder why you're looking so well. You look brilliant.
There is an incredible. Let me tell this short story, because before closing the live chat, there is an incredible story between me and George. George will never remember me, but we absolutely share 5 minutes of an underground tube in Milan, because he was my hero. He was absolutely my hero, my YouTube hero.
Okay.
We went to the way end, because I'm not a fan of Italian teams. I'm Italian, definitely, but I'm a Spurs supporter, but don't say it to my Italian Italian people. And we share 5 minutes of underground. And for me, George was my point of reference, just like Antonio Conte would say, was my hero at the time. And for me, it's absolutely a privilege to share this stage with him. And I'm absolutely honored by
you're gonna make me cry. You're gonna make me cry.
I just wonder, George, can you
and
confirm?
we share a pic. We share a pic. We share a pic because I was asking you for a picture. So thank you, George. So 5 years later, it was Inter de Milan Tottenham, first game of the Champions League group phases, the one that we managed with Pochettino to get to the final in Madrid. So
that was my first time in the San Siro as well. So that was
yeah. I was on the way end, and but George for me was like someone that I used to see on YouTube to get to know many things about Spurs, and for me it was a privilege. We share many things, 5 minutes of an incredible times that we share together. So after 6 years to be back here to share a stage like this is
there you go.
Is absolutely incredible. So this is a love story between.
What a love story!
Yeah,
what a love story that is.
Finally reunited.
I do just wonder if George will be cast.
After 6 years, thank you, George.
Thank you.
I just wonder, George, whether you'll forgive him depending on how Vicario gets on this season, or you will go to find in front of a picture at some point, maybe in a different type of picture.
We might need to have more than a 5-minute chat if he doesn't end up being the. No, I really appreciate it. It's very kind. Very kind.
Well, listen, George, mate, absolute pleasure having you back on the show tonight. Obviously, like I say, always great having you on. I know, again, still very busy, George, now working away in different ways in terms of football these days. George, did I ask you who is the surprise package you feel that we might have to watch out for during this pre-season? Is there one man that maybe catches the eye? And many are saying, obviously, Pat Matasar wants to watch Destiny Udogie, despite Simone telling us to maybe be calm on him and go mad on Vicario. Anyone out there, George, that we should be keeping an eye on that might surprise us during pre-season?
As a surprise, maybe Solomon.
Okay, Solomon. Okay, interesting. Okay.
Only not necessarily as like a starter, but because of the fact that I think he's very quick, very good at 1v1 attacking, which we don't have that as a winger at the moment. I thought Bryan Gil might be that player, but again, he's injured and won't be there. So I think he'll be an exciting player to watch. It's just whether he's just not going to really break into the first team because of Sonny. But I think he'll be one that might surprise players, fans even, because I think a lot of people downplayed the transfer purely because he was free. But yeah, I think he could be an exciting player to watch.
One final question for you, George. You just brought him up there. We haven't really given much time to him tonight. Bryan Gil, of course, not in the squad due to injury. Do you think he has officially played his last game for Tottenham? Would you be really surprised to see him in a Spurs shirt again?
It's a tough one because for me, he seems like the profile, like the type of winger that Ange would want, right? He's quite good with his feet. He's definitely good at taking on players. I remember the game against Chelsea away when he sort of made a cameo appearance towards the end of the game. I remember him turning Pulisic inside and out when he had to play right wing back for that game. And in that little moment, you saw a glimpse of a player that could be really good. And I just feel like he never really got the chance. So look, his heart might be set on going back to Spain and playing in La Liga. So that I don't know. I hope he recovers from injury enough that we do see him in maybe the Shakhtar game and see what he can offer. But the fact that we did sign Solomon maybe is a little bit more telling that he might not be in the plans for Spurs.
Okay, interesting. George, where can everybody find the wonderful work you do? You'll be back on here Last Word On Spurs, I'm sure. I think George will be back on one definitely before the season starts. He'll be giving us a couple of previews, I'm sure. George, where can we check you out?
Yeah, and hopefully I'm not battling, technology because it's been a bit of a nightmare today. But
we've got through it. We've actually got through it, believe it or not. We've only had a couple of cutouts. We've got through it. We've got through it.
Just a little bit iffy, but yeah, I really appreciate being back on here discussing Spurs stuff. And yeah, it's just George Achillea. Search on pretty much every platform, even on Threads now. I'm just making my way through every social media possible. YouTube videos will be back and running for next season as well. Much better place for all that. So yeah.
You heard it first. Simone's excited. Look how Simone is excited again. They're coming back, Simone. We haven't got to wait too long. They're coming, bro. They're coming. Christina, thank you so much for all your time. It's been lovely having you back on Last Word On Spurs and what's been a fairly regular basis. You'll be joining us a lot, of course, throughout, pre-season, the season ahead to come. Christina, we can everybody hear your hard-hitting opinions and, of course, a lot of love for Jack Grealish and hopefully some love for James Maddison coming our way.
No, do you know what? Pedro Porro is up there as well with me right now. But I'm on Twitter, guys, at Christina Zandes. So I'm apologies for the Jack Grealish tweets. But yeah, aside from that, I tweet a lot about Tottenham. So yeah, I'm going to be on there.
We've got a real Mediterranean show going on tonight. We've got a couple of Greeks, we've got Italian here. No one can say Last Word On Spurs is not trying to be international as possible. We really are trying to spice it up for the love of Ange. But honestly, it's a real pleasure. We've had the brilliant Simone, Dell'Uomo, George Achillea and the brilliant Christina Zandes. Guys, thank you so much for all your love and appreciation for the show. We'll be back with you, of course, for the pre-season games to come, where we're going to find exactly out what Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham is going to look like. But from Simone, from George, from Christina, from myself, guys, we've been the Last Word On Spurs. Have a lovely weekend. And from all of us here, take care. And as always,